All right, welcome back to another episode of Wall Street Rundown. I'm your co-host Billy. I got YoY with me. What's good, YoY?
What's good, everyone?
Man, oh man, this whole week the sell-off still continues, which is wild, wild, wild. I mean, those numbers today is ridiculous, man. If you look at like the major indices, like S&P 500 was down like 1.62%, Nasdaq was down like 1.98, Dow Jones 1.87, Russell 1.10. Those are crazy numbers. And I'm not just saying like one day, it was like back-to-back days too, this whole week, if you go look at the charts, we haven't really had a good clean day. And you see the crazy swings yesterday on like we went red, then we went green, then we went back red. It's just like the swings was wild, wild, wild. So what could be driving all this craziness, man? I mean, look at some of the geopolitical. We still got the war going on. There's a lot of back and forth, and I think as of like 4 or 5 hours ago, I think Donald Trump was gonna like call the war room. So I don't know what's gonna happen in there. There might be some strike happening. So God knows what's gonna happen in the next 24 hours. Plus, on top of that, we have CPI came out. I mean that yeah, inflation hitting 4.2%, like on year over year. That's crazy number. We haven't seen this since April 2023. I mean, this is ridiculous. Then we see all the semis numbers, the semiconductors. Look at all the semiconductors. Just they're getting hit like crazy, like all those numbers. Um, in terms of crude oil was up like 2.04%. Gold, I mean, gold kind of had a little bit of some profit taking too. I think we were down at like 4,100, I think, per ounce. I think that's the last number I saw. But other than that, man, we have seen like some crazy sell-off in the market. Now, I won't be surprised because we talked about this, right? We said this market is too high, something needs to give. So there needs to be some shakeup in the market. But Wale, is this here to stay? Is this a temporary thing? What are we looking at?
Yeah, I think if we just drill down to the basics, markets hate uncertainty. And if you
Yep.
look at the amount of uncertainty that's now getting priced into the market, the market is starting to react to that. So, as you mentioned, the war has now escalated to the point where the fighting has started again.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know again how long it's going to last. We don't know if there's going to be any resolution. But at this point right now, it looks like we're back to square one. And
Yep.
it doesn't look like either side wants to back down. So how that affects the oil markets over the next couple of weeks, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But right now, on that front, not looking good.
Yeah. Right.
CPI, if we're being 100% honest, the CPI number is moving in the wrong direction. Um, like we're back to a 4.2 handle on CPI, mostly driven because of the energy spike.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. Now, the silver lining of what people are saying based on what we saw in today's data is that core CPI that excludes energy as part of that calculation was only up 0.2% month over month and 2.9% year over year. So that basically tells you that the inflation that we're seeing is concentrated to the energy sector alone. So when the Fed looks at these numbers, they're going to take that into account. Because remember, when we look at what the Fed likes to look at, they like to look at PCE,
Mm-hmm.
and PCE strips out energy from that number. So from the Fed standpoint, they might not. I don't think that they're going to overreact over this CPI number in next week's meeting because they're going to be looking at what PCE shows. So I think from an overall standpoint, to me, I think we've just gotten to a point where there's what I like to call buyer's exhaustion, where the market has just been bought. It's been overbought for quite some time. Let's just
Yeah.
use that word.
Yeah.
It's been overbought at quite some time.
Yep.
And as a fund manager and as an institutional investor, you don't make any money until you sell.
Facts.
So we saw that Bank of America is telling folks it's time to take profits now. Like now is the time to start taking profits. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the businesses that people are invested in are bad or
Right.
you press the panic button. But as an investor, again, you don't make any money until you start to sell some of your gains. And I think that that's what we're seeing. Um, I'm watching bond spreads right now. We're not at a point where I would be like overly concerned, but I still think I told people in my group, I think it was what on Monday after close, I said, this is not a bad time to think about hedging and putting on some cheap hedges if you're long stocks. And we
Right.
saw a really big sell off yesterday, which got bought. And we saw another sell off today, which did not get bought.
Right.
So that's just to me, it's just a sign of buyer's exhaustion. And again, that happens from time to time because
Right.
again, we always understand that the market moves in cycles. Everything that goes up eventually comes down at some point.
Yep. 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 And it's crazy too. I mean, we're seeing even Oracle today reported after hours great numbers, beat on every single thing, but gave also good guidance. And what happened? It sold off. I think we're literally sitting at a place where it's like people are just like, it's time to take profit. You know what I mean? So, and again, doesn't mean like those companies are bad. Doesn't mean like the AI story is not intact anymore. It's just people taking profit. And I keep saying this. This is the last month of the quarter, so there's gonna be some rotations. I think until the end of this month, we're gonna see some red. If not, we're probably gonna start seeing some sideways until we start seeing some higher highs and lower highs. I mean, lower higher lows. I don't think anybody should think about getting any calls or even like buying like long term stocks right now.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But again, stuff like this present opportunities, right? It's like we talk about this like almost on the clockwork every single time. When the markets start dropping, make your list. Mark our words. This is gonna happen. We don't know when it's gonna happen, but the market start dropping. You start making your list. You start averaging down. You start looking at those stocks that quote unquote look great to you when they were like 200% more than what they are right now, or 100%, 50% more than where. So it's like this is the good time to do that. Don't be scared, please.
And we said on last week's show on last Wednesday, we said this is not a bad time to
Not a bad
think
time.
about taking profits. Like
Yep.
it's not. So, again, when a stock is having a bad week or the market is having a bad week, always
Mm-hmm.
understand what those drivers are. It's not the fact that, you know, it's not the fact that it's not always the fact that something is going wrong,
Right.
right? Profit taking is all part of the cycle of a normal market. So to me, that's what is happening. But I also say at the same time, the war doesn't necessarily make it easy to interpret because you also still have to factor that in because that's a wild card.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep.
just keep that in mind as we kind of push through this week.
Yeah, but let's talk about some of these numbers, man. Have we reached any correction territory right now? I mean, looking at some of those indexes, we're not even near that yet. Let's look at ES year over year. I think we're still positive on the year. We're not even negative yet. Yeah, we're still positive on the year. So overall, the market, if you look at overall the health of the market is still doing well, this year compared to like, what the drops have been seen over the past couple of days or a week or so. The market's still up. I mean, look at the major indexes. Look at some of those stocks. Like the market's still up. Like the stocks are still doing good. It's just literally this is a rebalancing of the stocks. So let's bring it back to the actual value and see if we can find some more values and then be able to take more money out of it. But yeah, that's basically how I look at it. Like that. We're not in correction territory. This is nothing like nothing crazy has happened just yet, at least.
Yeah. I'll also say too that maybe, with all of these potential IPOs that are coming down the pipeline, maybe people are selling out of positions to maybe start
Yes.
have enough money to buy into the IPO.
Yep.
I think that's another factor because, I mean, when have we ever had three companies that are valued at almost $1 trillion IPO in the same year?
The
That's
same year.
never happened before. You got SpaceX at a 1.7 to 1.8 trillion dollar mark. You got Anthropic at almost $1 trillion, and then you got OpenAI at almost $1 trillion. Like
Mhm.
all in the same year. Like I think that that also plays a factor as well. So, just this is not the time to say that the sky is falling, but again, you just have to be able to understand what catalyst could be causing this.
Yep.
And as
Yep.
as they show up, you start again putting together a list of names that you like long term, and you start to, you know, put yourself in a position to take advantage of that.
Yep. Yep. Speaking of SpaceX, the timeline, the final IPO price will be locked in on Thursday, June 11th, which is tomorrow. And the official public trading is scheduled to begin next morning, which is Friday, June 12th. So it is coming. Are you going to be a buyer? Are you going to wait on the sideline? I
Yeah, I ain't
mean, it's
I
going
ain't
to be
touching it.
crazy.
Yeah, I am not touching SpaceX right out the gate.
Yeah.
That's just not that just is not how I operate. I'll just have to wait and see what happens. And I know
Mm-hmm.
we live in an age where I know people just gonna want to buy it so that they can post online for the vibes, talking about I'm
Yep.
in SpaceX.
Yep. Yep.
But you always want to understand that part of the stock game is always trying to find. I'm not always trying to, you're not always going to try to find major discounts out there. Obviously, you just want to buy good companies and hold them for a long time. But
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the $2 trillion, $1.7 trillion valuation on SpaceX right now. I just don't. That to me is just a crazy overpriced name.
Yep.
And I did an analysis. I started to look at SpaceX in comparison to other space names like ATS, ASTS, I think it was, is
Mm-hmm.
another one. There's a couple names out there, and they're all priced at crazy valuations. But some people see the long-term trajectory of what these names could be in the future.
Yep.
My thing is, I'm not saying that they can't be big names or they can't reach those valuations. I just don't think that they have the revenue now to really, you know, warrant that valuation at this point.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I
Yep.
and I saw that SpaceX is trying to raise $75 billion.
Yep.
They said that demand has drawn more than $250 billion, implying that the deal is oversubscribed by almost four times.
Eh,
That's crazy.
Yep.
So, I mean, I understand the concept of what SpaceX is trying to do. They're not just a rocket company. There's compute, there's data centers in space, there's all kinds of things that they are trying to sort of establish and build as we move into the future of this digital infrastructure, growth. To me, I would just rather be a waiter and see what happens and go from there. But man, the hype is real. That's all I'm gonna say. I ain't seen this much hype since LeBron was coming out of high school.
This is wild, man. Like some institutional are placing single orders of $10 billion or more. Institutional traders, like that is crazy, man. So honestly, we'll see, man. I feel like you say it's a little bit overhyped, right? Of course, in the first few weeks, maybe like maybe like the first week, we can kind of see how the stock is actually going to do,
Hmm.
and then we'll see if people start shorting them. I mean, the one thing I don't see people talking about is what's the amount of short that we're going to see on this. If there's a lot of people going to short it and stuff, but
Oh yeah,
I
but I think
mean,
also too, I think trying to short it is going to be expensive.
it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be
It's
very
going to be
expensive
expensive.
because
Yeah,
everybody's going to try to play both sides anyway. And some of
yeah.
those institutions raised might be doing the same thing. They might put a few billions here and a few billions here, and then get money on the short term, and then take that and put it back into the stock. But overall, like you said, man, this is a massive, massive time that we live in. If all three of them really IPO in the next by the end of the year, I mean, what is that going to do to the liquidity in the market? I feel like we're seeing that being sucked up the market right now because people are like literally getting to a place where like, hey, we're gonna have to use some of the money for this. But it's happening. It is happening. You know what I mean? Like we're seeing. I can see a relation between what's happening in some, especially some of the AI companies, in them dropping is because those institutional traders companies probably like taking those money to put into those IPOs and stuff. So we shall see, man. Overall, it's going to be very interesting. But let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Intel partnership with Google, man. I just feel like Intel is just like I don't know, man.
Firing on all cylinders right now.
They're just grabbing everybody. You know what I mean? They're grabbing everybody. You know, they're being used as a secondary for to be able to produce chips, and now they have this relationship with Google that's gonna help them actually be able to build architecture and all that stuff for Google also. So I mean that's a multi-million-dollar unit foundry manufacturing deal. That's gonna put Intel way up there. Talk about a company that was $20, $19 this time last year, maybe even a little bit more, maybe. But from $19 to the high, what are we sitting at 107 right now?
I
Sitting at
think it's like
107.
107. But
But
we
we
hit a
went
high
to
of
a
like
high of 132. Like that is ridiculous, y'all. Go look at that yearly chart. I mean, that thing looks massive. But overall, man, let's talk a little bit about that because I feel like we beat Intel into people's head, and I hope people listening and taking some money into this.
yeah. So the thing with Intel that continues to help the stock overall is that they continue to make the right partnerships with the right people based on the demand for AI. Now, again, one of the biggest things that we stated in this whole story was their moat. What moat does Intel have? They are basically the only US based manufacturing company. And that in itself is adds value to the name. We understand that TSMC is the obviously the biggest chip manufacturer in the entire world, but what we're starting to see is maybe TSMC can't meet all of the demand that's out there at this point. So now Intel steps in and becomes a strategic partner to some of these chip makers to say, hey, we can off. I think I basically said this. I said, if Intel can offload some of the production from TSM from some of these companies, there's
Yep.
value there. And it sounds like they're executing on that. Now, I will say this, the stock is not cheap. The stock is
Mm-mm.
it is not a cheap stock anymore. So if the stock fails to produce numbers that people are expecting based on where it's valued now, you could see a pullback.
Yep.
But when you talk about long-term trajectory for a chip manufacturer, I really, really like the fact that they are being able to execute, and a lot of the other hyperscalers and a lot of the other companies that are looking for chip makers, they're now coming to Intel to help in that production story right now. So that all bodes well for Intel long term. And yeah, like I said, it's something that does add value to the overall business. And all we got to do is we got to see, can Intel continue to execute moving forward? Because execution is what drives the numbers at the end of the day. So
I mean, for me, it's like I think they are playing the right game. They're not.
correct.
I don't think they're rushing. They're making all the right partnership. But I agree with you also. If they don't deliver, the only saving grace they have right now is probably because the U.S. government is invested in them. So they're gonna have to be some type of you know help that's gonna come from the government to make sure that they're still gonna be able to reap their rewards, right? Because they own like a crazy amount of stocks in there. So but overall, I think Intel is making the right partnership, and I feel like we talked about all the partnership that they're having right now. For majority of it, we talked about how they'll be able to kind of like get to that point right now. But I feel like all this partnership is happening, but now it's time to deliver. It's time to actually like show the numbers, and all that stuff. So I completely agree, man.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah,
yeah,
I did.
I just my only thing with Intel is that, you just have to understand that as the momentum continues, the expectations also get higher. So,
Yes,
that is another thing that you have to understand, that as the stock gets more expensive, based on where it's trading today, the expectations of what you're going to want to have to deliver moving forward continue to increase. So just
facts,
keep
facts,
keep that in mind.
facts. One thing I never paid attention to was SMCI. You guys see how SMCI dropped today, like 20 something percent, 27, 28% today. I mean, we're talking about this was a stock that was like 122 $223, at the beginning of 2024, around that time. Look at that thing. It's literally at like $29. Like that is a crazy drop. You know, that's a crazy drop. So there's a bunch of sell-off happening over there. Every year, same thing. Dropped, I think 5% today, which is crazy.
So one of the things I want to talk about with SMCI is they dropped mainly because they need to raise money. And in
Mm,
order to raise money, they're selling more stock, which is going to dilute shareholders. Now, this is what I will say because I posted this in my investment group today. Does based on where SMCI sits in the AI chain, they are a server company. So they make the server racks that help connect the GPU clusters all together. I think they play in the same space as Dell. They also play in the same space as HPE. The one thing that I always look at is why are they raising money?
mm,
And the reason why they're raising money is because they have a $39 billion AI server backlog. So, what does
yep.
that mean essentially? That basically means that the demand for their product is too high that they cannot meet the demand. And in order to meet the demand, they have to raise money. You have two ways to raise capital in the public markets. You can issue debt or you can issue equity. And I think they went the route to issue equity because they don't want to take on any additional debt, which I kind of understand, but also having to issue equity, there's a price for that because it dilutes shareholders. If they can execute on this $39 billion backlog, is there value in SMCI at this stock price? That's the question I'd pose to people because they sit in a very essential part of the AI infrastructure build out. You cannot build data centers without servers.
Mm,
So when you have a backlog, that tells you that there is still demand. The question is, can they execute on that
and
backlog?
execute.
Hopefully,
Yep.
does that backlog grow or does it diminish? If they can execute on the backlog with the needed capital that they have, maybe to increase production or whatever it is they need to do we sit here 12 months, 18 months from now and see SMCI as a $60 or $70 stock? Is it possible?
Mm,
If you're patient and they can execute, to me, there probably is some value in this name. We just have to wait and see if they
yep.
can execute. Because to me, I look at SMCI now, and it's not a question of is there something wrong with their business? To me,
Mm.
the question is, can they execute? That's the biggest thing right now is can they execute? So,
That is going to be the question for them. I
yep.
mean, yeah, I think the demand is there for all of those things that they provide. Right? So it's like, but at the end of the day, um, are we able to see them go back to that level again? Like, you know what I mean? To go from like 120, 130, whatever to $20 is that's a steep drop, man. And that didn't
Hmm.
just happen over like a couple of weeks. I mean, if you look at they just been creating lower low for like since the beginning of the year. I
Yeah,
haven't really seen any higher.
I don't think the technicals right now, SMCI, let me pull that up right now. When I'm looking at the technicals of the stock, I mean, we got up to 51 not too long ago, and now we're back down to earth. From a technical standpoint, I am not, they're not a company that I would be proud of from a technical standpoint.
No.
But from a fundamental standpoint, to me, at some point, if they can hold above $35 and gain some momentum, I think that there is a chance that
Yep.
they could be there is some value there. I'll also say too that there's a lot of, I mean, we just looking at this month drop. This was a huge drop just this month alone.
Yep.
But I would not be surprised if at some point, maybe, just maybe, they can execute on some of these fronts that we could see a name that does have to get back to their to their glory days above $60 a share. But
Yep. Yep.
you got to be patient with this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Probably got to wait a couple more earnings.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is not a story that's going to turn around in the next 6 months, in my opinion. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, but overall, man, like some of those semiconductors names are just being getting smacked like crazy. So again, as we always say, make your list, and be patient. We say that every single time. Let's move on to some of those economic calendars for tomorrow. Of course, we talked about the IPO preparation for SpaceX, which will be trading live on Friday. So keep an eye on that. We have initial jobless claim. We have PPI 8:30 a.m. Core PPI also 8:30 a.m. So we'll see how those numbers looks like. And remember, the PPI is a producer price index. We have consumer sentiments 10 a.m. on Friday. We'll see how that goes. And then next week, I'm trying to see if there's anything crazy going on next week. We have the
That that
FOMC interest
yeah.
rate decision Wednesday, June 17th at 2 p.m.
Hmm.
They say Fed Chair Warsh have a press conference. Is the man going to show up? I don't know. This is going to be his first one. We're going to see. Can he keep it dovish or tame his face like, Jerome used to do? Or is he going to be out here blabbing and saying stuff? That's going to be very important, in my opinion, to see exactly what people are going to expect from him when he starts talking.
Do we
So
get PCE before the next Fed meeting or no?
PCE, I
I don't
don't
have
see
my
your date. Yeah, I don't see the dates here.
okay. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but yeah, we'll see what he says. Obviously, the biggest thing that's driving inflation, as we discussed, is the energy piece.
Yep.
And to me, if you look at the way the Fed functions, the Fed does not try to overreact to possible short-term, inflation shocks. Now, short-term inflation shocks can turn into long-term problems if they don't get solved very, very quickly. So that's another thing that you just have to consider. So, you know, I think the fact that we're not seeing major inflation outside of the energy sector, again, that's the silver lining that some people are talking about. But, you know, if people are spending more money on energy, maybe, and they're cutting back on other places, again, we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But it takes time before all of the full effects of this supply shock
Right.
hits the market. And you also have to factor in that this supply shock could get worse. Could get
Hmm.
worse. Like to me, if this drags on for another 6 months, it's not going to be good. So, but
Yeah. So hopefully we get a better solution here, resolution within the next. We can't wait for a month. We need a resolution within the next week. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
yeah, and I don't think that there's going to be any sort of
Oh
resolution anytime
man.
soon. Just based on what I'm hearing and what I've seen on the news, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not happening anytime soon. Something drastically has to happen
Yeah,
in order for a deal to be signed like that.
correct.
But like I said, I hope nobody pushes nobody to the wall, because once you get pushed to the wall, you have no way out. So you fight like hell and you do some crazy stuff. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and everybody stay safe. But we shall see, man. With that being said, man, let's wrap up for today, bro. Like, what do you have to say for people coming out in the next couple of weeks? I mean, we talk about the war and all this stuff, but any advice on what's actually one sector that you guys people probably didn't pay attention to? Like, look at the retail sector, man. Walmart and Costco and Target, all of those things. Those today. So not all side of the market are selling off. It's
Correct,
depending on where the
correct.
money is going.
And as you said, as we get to the end of the quarter, when money is taken out of some of the winners that we've seen over the last couple of months, it
Yep.
starts to rotate into other places. If I'm not mistaken, pull up Kava. I want to say Kava made a big move today.
Yep.
Let
Cow
me,
was up like 6% today.
Yeah, Kava made a nice move today. And then Cracker Barrel was up
Yep.
25%
Cracker Barrel is
today.
also same thing. No idea why Cracker Barrel's in business, but okay.
Yeah. I don't know where Cracker Barrel is in the Bay Area, so I couldn't tell you. But I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at some of the long-term charts for Kava. Um, 85, 30, and whoops, 9302 are two areas I would be looking at. And if Kava can get past that, I mean, maybe this stock gets back above 100 bucks.
Yeah.
But I kind of like what I heard from today's earning, and I kind of like how the weekly chart is setting up.
Yep. Yep.
So Kava would be a name that I would be somewhat interested in on a long-term basis. But to me, I always hesitate when it comes to B2C right now. I mean, B2B, I mean, B2C right now.
Yep.
But this name I'll have to do some research on and look at it from a technical basis. So
Yeah. We'll see, man. Like I said, if you can get over this, 80, 85 and all of that stuff, we might see go back to like 98 probably, and then we'll see from there, man. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's one of those times, like you said, like, should you maybe short term, you could probably put some money in there, but I think long term, we're probably going to see a pullback again, but we shall
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Yeah. But with that being said, man, let's wrap up for today. Like I said, there's opportunities still in the market, whether you're doing short-term hedging against your stock, whether you're doing looking rotating your own portfolio to see if you can find something else, or whether you keeping an eye on the market to see if you can find some sales. There is opportunities in the market. You just gotta find it. And I'm telling you, the stock market is gonna reverse, it's gonna go back to whatever it needs to go back to. But we don't the thing is you don't know when, and you don't know how high. So don't try to time the bottom, and don't try to, like, put all your money all in the same time. So figure out which one you want to invest in. But with that being said, man, thank you guys for joining us on today's show, Wall Street Rundown. Your co-host Billy got Wale with me. We'll see you guys on Friday, and have a good evening, y'all. Yeah, have
All right,
fun.
take care, everyone. Take care.